From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to Marla Mase. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Ruben. It's a beautiful day here in Brooklyn, as I like to say, BK, NYC, and yeah, it's actually a really spring day, so that's really nice. And I'm doing all right, and I really appreciate and thank you for having me on.
Thank you for letting me chat to you today. So, can you tell me how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
Okay, well, I have been. Truth is, I've been a writer. I've always thought of myself as a writer. I mean, in college, I was an English lit major, and you know, writing, wrote a bit. But actually, I didn't really come to music until my early 40s. So, for anyone out there who thinks it's too late for them and you're like 25, not true. um, you can start at any point. And I was writing and I was doing performances and plays and solo shows and also, like I said, plays, but I never did music. And at one point, I was having a hard time. It was like in 2000 and I can't even remember 2007. I was just having a hard time because my daughter had been struggling with an eating disorder and depression for many years. And my marriage was kind of breaking apart, and just all this stuff. And I just went through this period of time. All of a sudden, I couldn't get off the anxiety, like 24/7 anxiety, like really, like it wasn't just like a panic attack every whatever. And I just discovered that singing, like I was just singing in the car, like actually gave me like a few seconds of peace. I was like, oh man. I mean, it wasn't great. So, meaning the feeling of that anxiety, I've never had it like that before. And then I had an acting group that I went to for many years. Still work with Elizabeth Browning, and I was just bringing in songs, like just to sing, like not even my songs, just songs, like Broadway show tunes or whatever, rock tunes, anything. And people, and I was like really, I felt really connected to them because I think it just helped me so much that there was an emotional connection to it. And then I started bringing those other songs and then like putting them in between my own writings. And then eventually I just started writing my own stuff. And then I put up a show, my first show's at that first show with music called A Brief Night Out. And I had all these songs in it. And I wasn't writing it like on a piano or anything. I was like just literally like in my head, humming, making the melody and doing it. And that's how like, they say the gift of desperation. I mean, in terms of feeling better, I needed to sing and I dropped all my like insecurities about singing and my voice and oh my god, like a cappella. I mean, I'm not even a singer. And the people like connected with it. They were like, wow, this is this. One of my best friends was like, Mom, this is going to be your thing. I don't know what it is. It's something about it. And then I, did a couple of shows like that. And then I was like, I need a musician. And a friend of mine said, my friend Tommy. And then I met Tomas Donker. And lucky me, first person I was introduced to and met is like world class musician. He's toured the world his whole life. He's been doing it since he's 12. He's played with so many people. Brilliant songwriter, producer, singer, all of it. And he didn't treat me like I was green and didn't know what I was doing. He really said, wow, he really respected my art. And then he started like, really taking whatever I did and making it, way better, basically. And we've been working to end. So, and then in the beginning, it was just him playing like with the music, the show I was doing, this Brief Night Out, this one woman show or two-person show. And then he's like, you should really do an album. And I was like, and he's like, no, really, if this momentum and if you have an album, you can sell the show. And I was like, great, let's do it. And then I loved that. And then 6 months later, after I released that one, I put out another album. I just got the bug, and I've been doing gigs since. And and putting out albums. Right now I'm working on my 10th album, and we've in the beginning it was like wow, like people were just saying yes to this. Like all of a sudden I was in China like a year later, like with my band, and it was really special. And again, because like I thought the age. Not that I didn't even care actually, because I was so happy to feel good. I didn't give really a shit about that. I hope I can curse. I don't know what this. I won't. Anyway, I didn't really care, but it just showed you that this is what the world was saying yes to, and I love it. And yeah, that's how I kind of started. And yeah, and and people always ask me because they think like is it like Tomas composer, Marla lyricist? But it's not. It's really like sometimes it is like sometimes I come with like a melody and a fully fledged thing or almost fully fledged always makes it better. Or sometimes I'll come with just a chorus and some words and then we put it together. Sometimes he'll just give me beats and or music and I'll create it. So it's all over the place. And a lot of my albums have become um, we've done theatrical shows with them. Like I've made theatrical shows out of almost at least a few of my albums. Whether it's like with some of them have been big, with like me and like tons of like 5 actors and a full band and dancers. So it's been an interesting, yeah, I yeah, that's
So what was it like going into the recording studio to record your debut album, A Brief Night Out? What was that like?
well, that was I just couldn't even believe it's just like, thing I've done a lot of things in my life that I never even dreamt of like younger. It wasn't like, oh, so it was just like I can't believe, first of all, when I was doing the one person show stuff, like I couldn't believe that. And then also doing music and here I am with all these musicians and I'm in this studio. I mean, but when I first started, it's also something good about like not knowing a lot because I knew I had to perform. I'm a good performer, but like I just, yeah, like it was so exciting. I mean, it was so exciting because I used to joke around when I was younger. I did used to say, I really should be a rocker, but I don't write music and I don't sing. So, oh well, next life. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, all these amazing musicians and me up front. It was really, I felt really honored and excited. And, was I intimidated? I probably got a little bit more intimidated as time went on. You know how it's like when you first do something and you just kind of like, yeah, I'll do it. Even though I knew like because of the gift of desperation. Later on, when I was more in it, then I was getting a little bit like, oh God, I have to sing and I whatever the insecurities around that kind of stuff. Um, but it was amazing, and I've been very blessed. We've worked out of an amazing studio all these years. The first album we did with in Brooklyn actually. But then after that, every other album we've ever done with True Groove was with James Del Tacoma, who I was mentioning. It was Bill Laswell's studio. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bill Laswell, but he's pretty iconic producer and bass player. He like produced, if you remember Rocket with Herbie Hancock, like that's Bill Laswell or it's a lot like everyone anyway. So we worked out of his studio. That's our studio in Orange. Uh, yeah, so we've done a lot of them out there. It's just been, and that's like a studio that can fit like an orchestra and stuff. So it's been great. I'm learned, you know.
Never stop learning. So can you tell me more about a it's called Half Life?
Oh, what did I do a musical called Half? I have you mean the album or the
The
EP?
album, yeah.
Yeah, that one I actually didn't do. That's one of the ones I didn't do a show about, but I loved Half Life. Half Life. Speaking of Half Life, wow, thank you for making this up. Half Life was the album that we decided to do where they gave me the beat. That was the first one where they're like, here's some music, and we're gonna do it that way. And so they gave me stuff, and then I would write the lyrics to some of the sound. And it was kind of yeah, that was the idea for that one. And I love that album actually. Some of my favorite stuff that I still do, like Drown in Blue, which is the opening song of Half Life. I perform all the time in many different versions. Actually, there's a reprise of Drown in Blue on the album, so I do like a more slower version. I totally like the opener, which is more like a I don't know punk slash rock version. Um, I have a great video of it. I have to say, just because I'm so excited, like I did a gig last year in Berlin, not Berlin, this country actually. There's a place called Berlin in downtown New York in Village, and I have a great clip of me doing Shannon Blue. I'm like, I could be really critical, like I don't like any live clips, and this one is just bad. So Half Life, um, yeah, and then the song yeah, just and then at the end of the song, there's a song called "Hold Fast Your Dreams" on it, which my mom wrote, and I always wanted to like do something for her. I have a whole story about this. I'm not going to go into it now because in the show I do with my dad, I talk about this story. It's a funny story. I have a lot of funny stories about my mother, but it was written by my mother, kind of, as we say, sort of. It was based. I found out when I gave it to her as a gift. This song, I was like, Mom, I recorded this song for you. And then all of a sudden, there was like all this goings on about like like my father was like looking at. I mean, my whole life I grew up with my mother like this song, and I did it. We did it our version of it, which was slower and more, you know, her version anyway. And all of a sudden they were like, "Well, she's like, how I like to borrow things." I'm like, "Why do you talk?" No, she's like, I like to take. And all of a sudden he's like, "Marla," my father's like, "Do you think Mom really wrote this?" I'm like, "Yes." Like my whole life I've heard this song, and turns out like it was based on a poem called "Hold Fast Your Dreams" by a woman in 1915. It's public domain, but it's just funny, and then I look it up, and of course it's like the whole poem, and I believed it, but it's still her music. Anyway, it's so that's a special one for me. The spoken word piece in the middle of that. I do a lot of spoken word stuff. So Half Life has like a spoken word in it. So does Drown in Blue in it. So that album had a bunch of that kind of stuff. Like a lot of Mace spoken word, which is very groovy, vibey kind of album, I guess. Um,
So, can you tell me more about your single that was called "Hit Me with Your Rhythm Stick"?
well, that is, I mean, maybe because someone else interviewed me yesterday, and the guy was like, "Hey, I love Hit Me With," and that's a cover. I think of Ian Dury. You would know because you're British. I mean,
Yeah.
yes, and so okay, the whole thing about Ian Dury and the Blockheads is that when I first met Tomas, and he's always trying to figure out like what's the sound to build from Marlon, like what's going to work, and all this stuff. And he was right from the beginning, he was kind of like, I kind of think about you as like an Ian Dury, this kind of like eclectic kind of person up front who's a little not crazy, just like eclectic poet type. And that, but he's like, but I want to have like the best band behind it. He just loved the Blockheads. He's like, there's the funkiest band, amazing band. And I just think that was like the image he had for me. He's like this badass man around this front person who's just kind of like, people like, what's, like, what's going on? This is amazing, but like, what is, and he really used that. Actually, that was his formula or his idea for me right from the beginning. And I remember when we were in England in 2013, I went on tour. We just did a duo tour, just me and him, um, mostly in London and a little bit in Holland. And we went and saw the Blockheads, and he just loves them, So when we did, so we, of course, when we said one time do, that was my first cover of a song I ever did. Like, let's just do this one, and made it my own, and in it, they made it really no, still like kind of Blockheads even in the middle of it. I don't know if you know James Chance and the Contortions. I'm not sure if you're familiar with James Chance. So Tomas got his break really in music in the early 80s, late 70s, like his big break. I mean, he'd done a lot of music because he was the guitar player with James Chance for a while, and he toured with them a lot. It was James White and the Blacks, and they were in Downton 81. And so later on, we connected with James and we produced his second album after like, he has the album Bye, and then he had a lot of um, live stuff, but we produced like his second, that other album. It's like, for some reason, I should know the name of it since we produced it, and I'm forgetting it right now, which is very weird. But so anyway, he had the sax on that is James Chance. There's a sax part in the middle. It's very, if anyone knows James Chance, if once they know, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's James Chance. And but yeah, that people like that. Yeah, I haven't done it in England. I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't know if I should perform it there because, it's like it's Ian Dury, and in England he's very, and people might be like, this is so wrong, but it doesn't matter. I did it Mace. I can only do Marla Mase. So hey.
So, can you tell me something that is called "Starlight of Love"?
Oh, that one. So that was another cover I did, right? And so Lou Reed, and we were thinking about a cover song to do. And we thought about Lou Reed because a lot of people do like when they talk about my work, they think of me as very much like a downtown New York. They're like, oh, you're like, you remind me of Patty or Lou Reed or one of these people. So like, okay, let's see what Lou has. And oh, no, he's a lot. I mean, and I was listening to a bunch, and I went back to Tomas, and we kind of decided on doing Satellite. And I really, it just spoke to me, even though I didn't quite know. At first, I was like, I don't know quite what he's talking about, but I figured out for myself like what the song means to me, and it's I think it's a great cover, and I get a lot of people telling me like, especially when I perform, like that's their favorite. Like I get a lot of people, especially in England, like the people left, like they're like, I love your cover of Satellite Love, and I do it live, and they love my song 8:30. Like those are the two that people just like, oh man. But Satellite Love was we just wanted to make sure how to do the bridge in the middle. How do I do this? Like, I've been told you've been bowled by Harry, Mark, and John. And like, I had an idea of how I wanted it and conveyed it to Tomas, and he started playing it on the keyboards. I'm like, yes, that's it. Like, I just wanted this kind of choiry. And again, like when we perform it, it's a pretty big song to perform. Like people, yeah, I love it. That's going to be, I think, on my performance. Going to be on the set list for a while. It's been on for a while.
So tell me more about the single debut. It's called Dance Together.
Oh, well, Dance Together. Um, I have a story about that, which I can share. Um, one day I came home a bit long ago, and my cat, who you saw, who's sitting next to me right now, Charlie, he let me pick him up for like the first time in 9 years. I've had him for 9 years, and he's the kind of cat that just doesn't want to be held, and he's just, and I picked him up, and he was like, let me hold him. Like I'm like walking around with him. And I just started going, the original version was like, dance together, let's dance together, if only for a while. Because I was just so happy. And I was like dancing with him. And then I like all of it. And then I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I wasn't thinking of a song. And then I'm like, and then I started singing, I want to be alive with you. Like the whole thing was my cat. And I remember going, wow, this is a song. So I grabbed my like, phone and I'm like, let me just record this. And I told Tomas, I said, I think I have a song that I really want to do. And then I loved it so much. And then I met him and I was like, I think though it might sound a little bit like Lion Sleeps Tonight though, and I don't know, does it? He heard, he's like, no. And we did a demo and he's like, I don't think so. It's not like, 7 notes. I'm like, okay. Because I really loved it. And then, okay, this is one of my stories with my mom. My mom was, had Lewy body dementia. She rests in peace. She died 2 years ago. So she was bedbound for the last 4.5 years of her life. But she was aware. I mean, if someone didn't know her, they wouldn't know that she was aware, but she was, because Lewy body's more hallucinations and physical memories, like the last thing to go. And she was lying there. I'd always play music for her, like other music she loved, not just me, music. And at this point, so I had just had the demo of this song, and I was like, okay. And she was really out of it at this point. So she was starting to not be like so aware of me. And like I had been there already 15 minutes sitting with her next to the bed. And she didn't even say hi, nothing. She was just kind of like sleeping. I said, Mom, I'm going to play you my new demo. And I put it to her ear, and she's like, nothing. Like, but I'm just like, okay. And I stop. And literally, like, sorry, 5 minutes after it's over, she just goes, Lion sleeps tonight. And I'm like, what? And she said, Lion sleeps tonight. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like the Oracle of Delphi or something. Like, and I was like, Tomas, we can't do it. My mother, who wasn't even like aware, is like saying I don't even know if she knows that song. So I was very upset actually. And then I was over one day and he just started doing more of this rock riff to it. And we just changed the main, the I Want to Be Alive with You is the same. It was just that beginning part, made it more like kind of, gritty and dirty and and I love it. It's also like a song. Lately I've been ending my sets with that song. Because I get, people, yeah. Because I do feel like this lately in my life, it's just, that's my thing. It's like I want to be alive with you. Like this is as good as it gets. Me here talking to you, Ruben, sitting in a room with people. Like, what else? Maybe it's my age, but it's also like with the loss of my daughter and stuff. Like, just my priority. It's just like let's be alive together. Let's be together, like a little bit, like And so that's Dance Together. And yeah, there's a pretty good video of that on online now too from that Berlin gig. Anyway, it's a fun song. I love it.
So, tell me more about your latest single called Falling Sideways.
Falling Sideways is my latest single, but it's not it's not the newest song, meaning it was on my album Miracles Lost and Found. And that song I wrote. But now what happened was so I have all these albums. I just released my first vinyl called Infinite They Went. And there is one brand new song on it called All Fall Short, but a lot of the other songs were songs from over the years. We don't call it a greatest hits. It was just like, let's put it on vinyl. Let's do like what we think people might resonate, different things of my stuff. And Falling Sideways was on there. And we did remaster it and change a few things, but it was, but when I wrote it, this was, I don't play the guitar. I did play piano when I was young. I played for like from 6 years old to 12. But I was a classical player, and then I kind of stopped. But I do love classical music. But when I wrote, I didn't play the guitar at all. Sometimes I would like write songs not playing a note, like I just like strumming a guitar half and like make because I just have to hear something. But this time I had this is a while back, and I had asked Tomas to taught me 3 chords at one point on the guitar. Can't remember which ones they are right now. And I was just playing them and those 3 chords, and I just literally wasn't thinking about writing a song, nothing. It just came out, like sitting at a cafe wondering why countertop is awfully high. How did I get? I don't even know why these words came out of my mouth. I just had the chords. I just would make. I kind of have that kind of dumpingness with lyrics, and sometimes, and I just and it was almost that was one of the ones where it was almost the whole. It was almost exactly when I wrote the songs. I had there's a part in it where it's like once upon a time I had a dream. I mean, it was pretty realized, when I brought it to him, and then so that's like the story behind it. But we did it. That was in my show, Miracles Lost and Found. We did do a big show with that, and that was like a big scene in it because it's kind of trippy. It has like a trippy vibe, like I mean, we did the show. It was like there's like frog lady, and there's like it was almost like a modern day fairy tale, the whole show, and like that scene was kind of like meeting this frog lady and like mermaids and weird characters, like almost like down in the underground kind of thing. But and also the sound of it has like a like almost like an homage to the Beatles, kind of thing a bit. It has that uh, and the arrangement of the horns are incredible in that song. To say,
So, Keaton, was it like being an independent artist?
what is it like? Um, it is. Listen, it right now, like for example, I was just having a bit of like listen, I'm a human being, like emotional time. Maybe it's November, December, feeling kind of a little overwhelmed, a little emotional. Just give you an example of being an artist, not because of being an artist, because of life. And also maybe I was, and I'm starting to do the Lael Project, so there's a lot of emotions coming up with it. Not like I ever forget my daughter died. Trust me, this is like you never forget for a second. But just I don't know, whatever it was. And now in the last few days, so I was feeling I'm working on my next album, which is almost done actually, and working on new stuff. And like it like I'm fine. Like it literally like saved my life. Like how it did originally. Like I mean, in terms of the music, like singing just saved me. I was like could not get out of this anxiety loop. Now, even now, like the last few days, it was just like the last few months, 2 months, or a few weeks. And then Tomas was back from England. Also, we're working, and I'm like, this is saving my life. So I think as an artist, there is a bit of that. Um, it sounds dramatic, but it's really not. I mean, this self-expression, all that, and of course, that's just like, and I finally was able to like, it took me a long while, but I now for the last 20 years, I can call myself an artist. Like before that, I might not have. You go through your like nobody, like if you care about what people think, I know I just do me. Of course, it's I'm past like a lot of the stuff that might have been mattered. So we just continue. You can't really. You kind of. I guess it is like you don't really have a choice. I mean, when I am someone who gets inspired and I write things down. I mean, sometimes it has to be. They say the perspiration, not the inspiration, and I prefer the inspiration. Easier. So
Good to hear. So, finally, can you tell my listeners we've got any gigs coming up in the near future?
well, if any of you are in New York City, in Brooklyn, I will be performing at Young Ethel's in Park Slope. I don't know if this might be only for the UK, but hey, it may not be. World global radio. And I will be there on January 20th at from 7 to 9:30. I will be doing a set, and also the amazing Irene Mastangeli, who is a good friend, but also an incredible singer-songwriter. She will be doing a set of just her solo acoustic, and I'll be there with the band, which is the True Groove All Stars, and that. And then well, I will tell you something. I mean, I am coming to England in February. I just don't know where yet, but I am doing the High Tide Festival in uh in um in Twickenham this summer. So I'm very excited about that. We have a bunch of True Groove artists. That's the record label I run. Tomas will be doing a set. Tomas Donker and the True Groove All Stars, and then Project Blackbird will be there, and I will also be, being one of the main performers. So I'm really excited about that. And I have another one booked in England, but I don't know the name of it yet. It's some book barge. I think also like in Kingston upon Thames or one of those areas where there's like a barge and a bookstore, and I'm gonna be performing there because I'm doing a little bit more stripped down stuff there as well. Those are the two I know in England right now, but that's in the summer. July 27th, High Tide Festival in Twickenham. We love the people at Eel Pie Records, just in case anyone. They're amazing, and we've done shows there before in their actual record shop, and they sponsor the festival. So excited about that. And they are actually also producing an event, Tomas, at the Cumberland Hotel on February 7th. So
So finally, can you tell me this? Where can I find you on your social media?
sure. Okay, so it's marlamase.com is my website. That's MarlaMase.com. That's one thing. I am on Facebook as Marla Mase, same personal and artist page. I'm on Instagram at Marla Mase Official. I'm also on Twitter and whatever, X, sorry. Not sorry. X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Threads. But really, the main ones. And there's TikTok too. I know like everyone's supposed to be doing TikTok, but the label people do it because I just can't take on that situation. So yeah. And the Lael Project, but that will be another time. That's the thing I do with my dog, but we will talk about that.
We certainly will. So thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Thank you so much, Ruben. I really appreciate it. I really thank you. Great to meet you and talk to you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.